What's going on, everybody? In this video, you're going to learn everything you need to finally nail your one-arm handstand. Prerequisites that you need before you start. We're going to go through it really quick. Feel free to skip to when the actual drills start. But you need to be able to do a two-arm handstand. It's got to be good. You got to be able to do it for 60 seconds. And you kind of basically need to not fall. And if you can do shape changing and jump into straddle handstand, that's even a bonus. All right, let's begin. While you're practicing your one arm handstand, you definitely be want to working on this two arm head in drill at the same time. I like to actually hold my breath for a second while my head's moving from looking at the ground to looking at my feet with my chin to my chest. Hold your breath for a quick second while you do that. Then you can breathe again. Kind of a little cheat code here, but you really want to nail this head in handstand. And you can be working this while you're working on your one arms. Work on it together. All right. This is the first drill. This is the very first thing you start working on when you're trying to learn a one arm handstand. You want to be flagging 45 degrees with your legs back and forth and feeling the weight shift over onto the hand of the arms that you're moving towards. You're moving your head now. I want you to look at this first knuckle of your thumb of the arm that you're shifting to. So you flag 45 degrees, look right here at your first knuckle of your thumb, and you push hard into the ground with both arms. The arm that you're shifting to, it has to be straight. You cannot bend your elbow, and you have to keep your whole body pretty rigid, pretty locked. You want to be, again, flagging to 45 degrees with your legs. So it should be kind of like shaped like this is the shape that you're looking for. Now, if your middle split isn't great, you still want to have some amount of flag, but it's going to be less than 45 degrees. You definitely want some side bending regardless, though, because you do have to get your weight shifted over onto one arm, and flagging is a fantastic way to learn this. It's not the only way, and it might not be the final form, the final way that you end up balancing your one arm, but you have to learn it this way because it's going to save you so much time. This is a big reason why I see a lot of people never be able to balance a one-arm handstand is because they're just simply not flagging enough. Here's what your training should look like at this point. You do 5 to 10 sets of fingertip support holds, and you want to be able to do this for 30 seconds. Now, you've mastered the 5-finger support hold on both arms. This is what you want to do next. It's called straight arm support holds. You really want to be able to build this up also to 30 to 60 seconds. Okay, so here's what you do. You shift over to 5 fingers, and it needs to feel light here. If it still feels heavy, there's no way you're going to be able to straighten your arm and go up to 1 or 2 fingertips with the straight arm support. So it's going to feel light by getting your shoulder even closer to your ear and flagging even slightly more. If you need to flag even more than 45 degrees, that's totally fine. You can see on my right side, for example, I like to flag even more than 45 degrees when learning this, when demoing this. That's not how I always balance my straddle one arm, but it's a fantastic way to learn. So you're shifted over, your shoulders a little bit higher now, you're flagged maybe even slightly more, and that's what's going to give you, those two things are what's going to give you that extra space to go from 5 fingers to straight arm support. If you have any extra time to train or you just want a little bit more variety, I would recommend doing only one other drill at this point, which is quarter block walks. This is the first step in learning how to do a full block walk, but I like to teach it by breaking it up into bite-sized pieces because a full block walk is very difficult to do at this stage in your training. It's definitely something that you're going to want to build to so that when you do a straddle one arm, you're basically also able to do a full block walk as well. So here's your setup. You want just one block, and it needs to be on the outside of one of your hands. You're going to jump to a straddle handstand, and you're going to do all of the same techniques we've just been practicing. You're going to flag to 45 degrees. You're going to look at the first knuckle of your thumb, push hard into the ground with the arm that you're shifting over to, and you're going to reach for the block and try to grab it. You want to try to get a little bit of balance here on this block before you go back to 2 arms. Next is a half block walk. This is the middle step of between not being able to block walk and being able to block walk. If you get here, you have to see this through because block walks are probably the second best drill of all time for learning one arm handstand. So you made it this far. What do? Same exact technique. You shift over, you move your head, your shoulder goes high and in, your elbow straight, and you're looking at the first knuckle of your thumb that you shifted over to. You're grabbing the block now and you're pulling the block in. You're pulling the block inwards where your hand would be and shifting some of your weight, not all of it, back to center. And then you're going to shift over back to the arm that's still on the floor, move the block back to the starting position, put your hand back on the ground, and repeat. All right, so now you're ready to do full block walks. Once you can do 10 half block walks in a row, you're ready to try to do the full block walk. Start by flagging. This is so important. If you're not flagging, it's going to be so much heavier. So you're flagging maybe even past 45 degrees now and pushing hard into the block. You want to find your rhythm here. If it feels like you're stuttering, you're pausing, that's going to make it harder actually. You really want to be confident and commit to the full movement. So you shift over, you grab the block, you flag, and you push up high onto your shoulder to get all of your weight onto the block and your offhand off the ground. While you're pushing into the block, your offhand, there's some coordination here. Your offhand has to grab the second block. I like to use the corner of my eye again to spot the second block, pull it in. And as I'm pulling it in, I'm shifting my weight back over. Going down is easier than going up. So if you made it up, you know that you're more than halfway there. So now you've worked your block walks. You can do 30 seconds or more of straight arm support on both sides, and you're rarely falling now. You're chaining together multiple high quality sets. You're ready to just start balancing a one arm handstand. And you've got to believe in yourself. I believe in you. At this point, you can do it. And you just have to believe that you are somebody that can now balance a one arm handstand. Here's the whole setup from beginning to end. This should be naturally ingrained in your body now because you've done it so many times on block walks and so many times while you're doing your 5-finger support holds and your straight arm support holds. But you start by flagging to 45 degrees. Then your head moves over and looks directly at the first knuckle of your thumb, and your shoulder is pushing hard into the ground to get you to 5-finger support. You flag slightly more and push slightly harder to get to straight arm support. And I want you to pause here, catch your balance for a second or two, make sure that you're breathing and you're not holding your breath. And the way you get your supporting arm off the floor and start balancing is you just slightly flag your leg down even further while pushing up with your shoulder ever so slightly more. It doesn't take much. You're basically in a one-arm handstand already at this point. So if you just slightly adjust these two things, you will be balancing. You're never perfectly balanced, even in a two-arm handstand. You fall forwards and you fall backwards, and you're always trying to catch yourself using your fingers and your elbows, your shoulders, and even your hips too, if you're still learning. The same is true for one-arm handstands. You're always falling, you're always balancing, re-catching yourself. But instead of falling forwards and backwards in a one-arm handstand, you fall left and right, side to side. This is the terminology that I use to describe it. When you shift over, the arm that you're balancing on, if you fall out that way, that's a cartwheel out fall. That's what I call it. And if you come back to two arms, if you fall the other way, which is back to two arms, that's a return to center save. And there are different ways to save both ways you fall. Just like in a two-arm handstand, how you use your fingertips to dig into the floor if you're falling over balance, and your palms and pushing high in with your shoulders to save the underbalance, there are the equivalent saves in one-arm handstands. So the way you save, I'm going to tell you all the saves for the cartwheel out fall. Save number 1 from top to bottom is your hips. You flag your hips down towards the ground to save yourself from cartwheeling out. If you imagine a tightrope walker, they have their big poles, and to balance themselves, they use the pole to essentially flag back and forth. And when they're going to fall down one way, they pull the pole down to the way they fall. And that's what your legs and hips need to do for you at first. So the other way to save the cartwheel out save is by bending your elbow. You can just bend your elbow to catch that save. There's still Another way to save, you can balance from your hand, kind of like a joystick, how you press your hand into the ground. This way, as you're cartwheeling out, you might even see your thumb come off the floor. Here are the 3 saves you need to learn to balance the return to center fall. Number 1, it's flagging again from top to bottom of your body. It's this time you want to unflag. You want to bring your hips in the opposite direction that you do when you go shift over to one arm handstand. They might even look straight, or you might even go more than straight. You might go down past parallel with your hips. That's okay. That's going to save you from falling back to 2 arms. The other way to save the return to center is your shoulder. If your shoulder is pushed higher, you will not fall back to 2 arms. The third way is again with your hand. You will push hard down with your thumb, right where your thumb is, into the ground as hard as you can. Your pinky might come off the ground. That's totally normal. That happens to me. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and comment if you have any questions. I'll answer every question you have. I love to hear from you guys. So thank you again so much. Here is the bonus drill that you've all been waiting for. What's probably happening to you right now is that when you go and you take your finger off, you go shift over and you get to a one-arm handstand, you start spinning. You can film yourself with the video, send them to me, figure it out for yourself. Most people twist inwards, like turning into a figa. If that's you, you'll need to spin outside. You're going to need to spin the opposite direction. So what does that mean? It means when you're flagging over to initiate this turn, you put your foot on the outside of your hand closer towards your fingertip, and that'll propel you and start the spin motion. Once you've started spinning, you'll lift off your offhand and then quickly put it back down on the ground. You want to aim to spin at 45 degrees. I said 45 degrees. That's wrong. It's 90 degrees. You want to go hands here, hair here. I'm not flexible enough. You get the idea. You want to spin 90 degrees both times. If you start and you're only going like a little bit, that's totally fine. Figure out which way you twist, correct it by hand walking in the opposite direction, and you will for sure be nailing these 20-30 second straddle one arms in no time. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, happy to answer any questions you got, and I'll see you in the next video.